to suspend all arrangements being made for Kpandai Parliamentary rerun were live to the court for reactions and details.
Also this afternoon, more than 100 members of the Ghana Mine Workers Union picket over unfair labor practices.
Plus, relief in the offing for consumers of petroleum products as fuel prices are expected to see a decrease from today.
It's News Central live on TV3. I'm Kemini Amanor.
And I am Mawuena Egbeta. The bulletin starts right now.
Now, the Supreme Court has ordered the Electoral Commission to suspend all arrangements being made for the rerun of Kpandai elections pending determination of all processes before the court. Now, earlier, lawyers for Kpandai MP Matthew Nyedam notified the court that it had been unable to serve the NDC candidate Daniel Wakbal and prayed for an order for substituted service. We can now connect with our court correspondent, Lord Eduasare, on this subject matter. Lord, what else can you tell us about the hearing today? Obviously, very significant decision by the Supreme Court.
Indeed, Kemini. So, basically, what happened in court was that the lead counsel for the NPP candidate, Kpandai MP, I should say, they were moving the motion for a substituted service after indicating to the court that they had been unable to serve the interested party, who is the NDC candidate, Mr. Insala Wakbal, indicating that at his residence at Kpandai, they had been unable to serve the processes. Said all other means that they had tried, they have failed, and so they were in court to get an order for substituted service, in that they wanted an order for the lawyers to be able to serve him via WhatsApp, email, the notice board of the various courts. Now, even before that, we know that they were in court early on to, as it were, get an order from the Supreme Court to quash that Tamale High Court's decision, which ordered the Electoral Commissioner or the Electoral Commission to go ahead with the rerun of the Kpandai elections, looking at all the 152 polling stations. When this was done, before they could move that motion, however, then they put before the court about their challenges of serving Mr. Insala Wakbal about the processes. Now, the bench asked for further details, asking that how could that be that they couldn't serve him? And then the issue of the Electoral Commission, Kemini, this was very critical because when the case was called, and I'm going to track back a little here, there were no representations for the Electoral Commission. Their lawyer was present, but the Electoral Commission, none of the commissioners were present. The bench did not take kindly to this and condemned them without mentioning words, indicating that they are the electoral body in charge of the country's elections. If for anything at all, this is an exercise that they had been making preparations to go to the polls for the rerun of Kpandai elections. So if anything at all, they should have been present to hear what the court says and any orders which may or may not affect it in the long run. But the lawyer for the Electoral Commission, led by Justin Amenduvo, he told the court that he hadn't told his clients, and that was the reason they were not in court. Now, back to the table. They were asking for the contact during the engagements about how the substitute service was supposed to be done. The contact for Insala Wakbal was being sought for, and again, the issue of the absence of the electoral commissioners became apparent because they indicated that if for anything at all, the petition that Wakbal had filed should have contained his email and contact. And there's a case that neither no electoral commissioner was in court to provide those details. But Gary Namakon put the number out there, and for them to cross-check if that number was valid enough, the Justice Amadu Tanko actually opted for them to try the number either on WhatsApp or, as it were, send money to the mobile number if it has been registered. So they actually tried that. They sent about 500 CDs, and then they got to know that, okay, this number was actually active. Now, after all that, the court then ordered for the substituted service, indicating that in light of that, the Electoral Commission should halt any preparations that it intends to do ahead of the Kpandai rerun, and said that the substituted service should be done to the notice board of the High Court in Kpandai, the email address of Insala Wakpao, his WhatsApp number, and all other details came in. We've been speaking to some of the minority members. They have been reacting to this decision by the Apex Court. Director of Elections, Evans Nimakon, also spoke to us regarding what this means for the elections by and large, Kemini.
Very well. Let's take a listen to those quickly. Well, we'll bring those later. But I mean, and again, that's a question I would have come to you on. But even before we get there, let's talk about the presence of the opposing sides too. Was there representation for Wakpal in court? What was the opposing arguments that were put out, if any at all? Well, it would appear we have lost our court correspondent on this story, but very significant development on the Kpandai rerun. As it stands now, the Supreme Court has ordered a suspension of all arrangements being made for the rerun of the Kpandai elections. Remember that the Electoral Commission has set December 30th for the rerun of that election after the High Court ruling. Now, this does not also mean that the Supreme Court has overturned the High Court ruling, not just yet. Let's connect again with our correspondent on the ground, Lord Eduasare. Lord, you were telling us that you had spoken to Director of Elections for the NPP, Evans Nimakon, on this subject matter, how they feel about it and what it means really for the rerun as of now. What did he tell you? Oh, it appears that's not happening, but we know, I mean, this is a story we're going to follow. It will be crucial to also know when they go back to court to take on the substantive matter. As far as this is concerned, because remember that it is not the substantive matter that has been heard today, because the substantive matter was to overturn the High Court decision for the rerun. Now we know there's a suspension of the December 30th event planned by the Electoral Commission. We'll find out from the Commission in subsequent broadcasts how this plays out. But perhaps we could reconnect with our correspondent again. Just one last try. Hopefully we get him this time. Now, I was asking, what did Evans tell you? When are they going back to court? Take us through those. Before
the court, because Kemini, as it stands now, the case has been adjourned to January 13, where the substantive matter of the certiorari or the application by the Kpandai MP to quash that decision by the High Court would be heard. And so this is what he's been reacting to on this matter.
We'll leave it here. Thank you so much for the reporting. More on this story on 3news.com and subsequent broadcasts here on TV3.
It certainly is a subject matter we'll take to Parliament as well, because it is a crucial week for the House, beginning today as members prepare for recess with a key duty to pass the appropriation bill for government spending in the 2026 fiscal year. Debates have ensued ever since the Finance Minister delivered the budget in the wake of controversies and unexpected disruptions that brought the House into another disrepute. There are bills for some flagship government policies set to be debated on the floor before their passage as well. And you see how all of that shapes up as well in the coming days. Let's go to Christian Yale right now for a bit more in terms of all of these perspectives and more. Christian, we know today is exactly a week since the minority attempted to disrupt proceedings in Parliament in relation to Kpandai. Now we're hearing the latest from the Supreme Court as well, putting on hold that rerun slated for December 30. Any reaction yet? And also, are we to expect the Speaker make any comments in that regard as to what happened last week?
Eric, it is indeed an interesting development today, also noting that it is exactly a week, just like you had indicated, that the minority MPs, raised that strong concern against the move by the clerk to Parliament to forward that notice to the Electoral Commission announcing the vacancy in the Kpandai parliamentary issue. And so this becomes a very interesting development. But when you ask me about reactions, we know that a number of the MPs, including the former Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwu, as well as Samia Uku and others, were in court earlier. And when you listen to what they have been saying, it is so far a welcoming news for them, because then the argument advanced by the minority has been the case that it was premature for the clerk to Parliament to have sent that notice to the Electoral Commission announcing that the Kpandai seat has become vacant. And yet again, that would take you back to the issue of CI 1927 Rule 1, which is a case that the minority has used to more or less counter that move by the clerk to Parliament. And so that is the concern. And really, when you listen to the minority MPs so far, they are very, satisfied with this outcome of the court ruling, also because they have held that it was a wrong move. And again, the avenues available to look into this matter were not, exhausted, so to speak. And so last week, when they resorted to disrupt proceedings, one of the chants, in which chant they were even, speaking to the clerk, saying that he was in a way doing what in the local parlance you would call concern. So they were asking him to refrain from doing that. And so for the minority MPs, yes, this is what they had expected for the court to do. But yet again, we await the Speaker's own direction on this particular matter. Right. You would recall that on the day when all of this happened, last week Tuesday, when the disruptions occurred, he had indicated that he was going to look into the official report for that day, also because he could not get to hear exactly what the majority leader had said about the issue when the minority chief whip, Frank Anodon-Pre, had earlier raised the concern and demanded a withdrawal or a reverse of that notice which the clerk had sent to the Electoral Commission. And so we are waiting to see if today the Speaker himself would be around and would be able to deliver his verdict on this issue, on the substantive issue of whether the clerk was right to have sent the notice to the Electoral Commission to announce the vacancy. Eric.
Right, and we know that this has been a budget meeting in terms of this session of Parliament. Estimates are still being approved. What more is expected before the recess? Even we know the appropriation as well is yet to be passed.
Yes, Eric. So we know that beginning today, there are still a number of key government issues or business to be considered on the floor. Some of which are very interesting to note, including some key bills like the Legal Education Reform Bill. We also have that of the 24-Hour Economy Authority Bill. Those ones have been read the first time, and so today the second reading will be done. And as it were, when the second reading is done, it means that it opens the floor for some debate to ensue from both sides of the House. There is also that of the Interstate Succession, bill, which is also programmed for today when you look at the business statement. And just like he had indicated, it is going to be a very busy week week, also because there are still some pending estimate for some of the ministries, departments and agencies to be approved by the House before the passage of the appropriation bill. So the appropriation bill itself, Eric, would be read the first time today and laid before the House. But as you can see in the chamber, I mean, some MPs from the minority side have come to the chamber. You see Frank Anodompre, the chief whip himself. There is the honorable MP for Bosome Frehon as well, who is just beside Frank Anodompre. But actually, largely, it is an empty chamber right now, also because over the weekend, MPs go to their constituencies to engage in other businesses before they return to the business in the chamber. And so, as it stands, very shortly, meeting would be called to order, and then we'll get to see what would ensue. But you would expect that there would be some, stretched days this week, especially before the House should go on that recess for the festive season. But Eric, you know that as it were, when this happens, it is important that the appropriation is passed to also help in the government spending for the next year, and what would be the attendant effect thereof, Eric.
All right then, Christian, thank you very much. Christian Yale is my colleague in Parliament for us, painting a picture as to expectations from the House, even as the business is expected to be considered one final time for this year in terms of the 9th Parliament. But we've been bringing you details of that breaking news from the Supreme Court ordering the Electoral Commission to suspend all arrangements being made for the rerun of the Kpandai elections pending the determination, the final determination of the court processes before them. We know that the Director of Elections for the NPP, Evans Nimaku, has been speaking to my colleague, Lord Eduasari. We can take a listen to what they made of the court's decision today.
And then essentially the rerun of the Kpandai elections. You've gotten that, although it's a halt of the preliminary one. What do you make of the orders in court today?
I think today the court orders speak for itself. I mean, when it has to do with parliamentary petition, you look at the 1992 Constitution, it is clear that it terminates finally at the Court of Appeal. This is a process that started at the High Court, and the defendant has been challenging the whole exercise. And so it beats every imagination for the Parliament clerk to write to EC, for EC also to go ahead to publish a date for conduct of an exercise that is being contested in the court of law. So for me, what the court has said today settles the issue to some extent. Let the NDC candidates be served, and then the process will continue. We can't have a situation where this judgment has been given, it is being contested, and other interested parties will run so fast and not allow the process to go to its conclusion. That for me is not fair. And so what the Supreme Court has given today will send a signal to all those who thought that they can have their way. It is important that we allow the law to rule. And I expect also the media to challenge some of these things. Someone went to court with the issue of 41 polling stations out of 152. And a judgment comes with the ruling that in all the 152, they should be rerun. And nobody is questioning that. That is not fair. Today, you may think that it's okay, and you won't question it. We should pray that it doesn't happen tomorrow. That would be my statement.
But I mean, today the Electoral Commission, none of the commissioners themselves were present in court, something the court took notice of and actually condemned and cautioned them. What did you make of it?
Now we should find out from the EC. You should probe. I mean, it is their responsibility to be here. Okay, we as the party interested, challenging it, we are here. The EC published that they were going to conduct a by-election by 30th of December. Was that fair? Was that fair? And so if the court so says that they are not pleased with their conduct, so be it.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
So that's the contact for Insala Wakpao was being sought for, and again, the issue of the absence of the electoral commissioners became apparent because they indicated that if for anything at all, the petition that Wakpao had filed should have contained his email and contact. And there's a case that neither no electoral commissioner was in court to provide those details. But Gary Namakon put the number out there.
Well, that's Evans Nimako. We also know that Fatih Shaibu, who's a former information minister as well, was in court. She's a lawyer as well, was a part of the legal team for Mr. Nyindam, who are present in court today. She as well reacted to the ruling of the court. Remember that but for the Electoral Commission, who are respondent in this matter, whose lawyers were present, the NDC had not been served. Reason why Lord was explaining that the lawyers for Mr. Nyindam prayed that the courts gives an order for substituted service so they can serve them via WhatsApp, which was a reason why we were told a story as to whether or not a number was active, and they were asked to send some momo to that number just to be sure it was active. And so there is the indication that there will be substituted service, which will mean the NDC will not have a basis to say that they have not been served and not make an appearance the next time in January when this case is held. But let's hear from Fatih Shaibu as well, as a former information minister.
Okay, I'm ready when you are.
Right, I mean, this is far from over, but this is somewhat a win for you, considering that there's an order on the Electoral Commission to halt any arrangement for the rerun. But if you can give me your comments on what has transpired so far.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to express our most profound gratitude to the bench. The Honorable Court, in the interest of justice, has listened to the prayer of the Legal Counsel for the applicants and has ordered that the second interested party, which is the Electoral Commission, should suspend all preparations towards conducting the rerun in Kpandai constituency on 30th December and wait until such a time that the main or the substantive case, which is the application for an order of certiorari from this court seeking to quash the judgment delivered by the High Court in Tamale on 24th November 2025. Also, the Honorable Court has ordered that we serve the first interested party, or Mr. Nsala Wakpao, the NDC parliamentary candidate by substituted service, through his WhatsApp, the High Court Tamale notice board at the Supreme Court, and also at his residence in Kpandai. So we are most grateful to the court, and we look forward to making our case in the subsequent sittings of the court set at 13 January 2026. Thank you for your time.
I guess the main agenda.
Away from that breaking news, the Santehene Tumfuose II is set to present a comprehensive report on the Bawku Peace Roadmap to President John Dramani Mahama today. This marks a significant milestone in the efforts to resolve the long-standing Bawku chieftaincy conflict. There's more in this report.
The mediation process, initiated by former President Kufuor and continued by President Mahama, has involved extensive dialogue between the Kusasi and Mamprisi communities. Key aspects of the mediation process included dialogue sessions between representatives from both communities who met at the Menchia Palace with security personnel deployed to ensure order. On Monday, December 1, the Asantehene rounded off his mediation effort in the Bawku chieftaincy crisis with a face-to-face meeting between the contending parties at the Menchia Palace, Jubilee Hall, Kumasi. The report will outline agreements reached, recommendations for next steps, and proposals for consolidating peace in the area. The Bawku conflict has resulted in several deaths, displacement, and destruction of property since November 2021. The mediation efforts praised by the National Peace Council aims to bring lasting peace and stability to the region. The presentation of the report is expected to be a crucial step towards implementing a roadmap for peace in Bawku. Judith Brown, TV3 News.
Meanwhile, the Minister for the Interior on the advice of the National Security Council and by executive instrument, has renewed the curfew hours for Bawku municipality and its environs in the Upper East region. The curfew starts from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., effective Monday, December 15, 2025. There's also a total ban on all persons in the Bawku municipality, again, and its environs, from carrying arms, ammunition, or any offensive weapons, and any persons found with any arms or ammunition will be arrested and prosecuted. Government is also calling on the chiefs, elders, opinion leaders, youth, and the people of the area to exercise restraint in the face of challenges confronting them, as well as to use non-violent means to channel their energies into ensuring peace. There'll be more on that later. Right now, let's head back to the court on that Supreme Court's decision to suspend the rerun of Kpandai elections. Deputy Director of Elections for the NDC, Rashid Tanko Computer, is joining us for a quick reaction on this matter. Tanko, I appreciate your time this afternoon. How does the decision come to the NDC?
Well, let me say good afternoon to you and your cherished viewers across the globe. We are not surprised at all. We are law-abiding citizens as a political party. What we do know is that the Supreme Court only suspends the rerun. The Supreme Court has not cancelled the rerun. They only suspend that. Yes, my opponents have only suspended their defeat. In fact, it has been suspended. Their defeat has been suspended. It has not been cancelled. It means the Supreme Court is aware of the orders of the High Court. And they are also aware of the second responder, which is the Electoral Commission, having fixed a date for the rerun. So what they are saying is that, well, hold on the rerun. Let's see. The people are crying that they have not been managed to serve our candidate. That's why we are in the court. Our candidate was not served.
I see.
And so in order...
Is it that your candidate was not served, or your candidate... Tanko, can you hear me? Is it the fact that your candidate has not been served, or your candidate is evading service?
Our candidate was not served. Our candidate is a law-abiding citizen. He's a former MP. He has not traveled out of the country. And it is not for his duty to be looking for the bailiff to come and serve him, or the MPP. He was not served. And that's why he didn't appear in court.
The argument being made by the NPP side, or by Gary Nimako in court, as we are told, is that they have tried to serve your candidate, but it has proved futile through numbers and the likes. Trying to reach him, it hasn't been successful.
He should prove evidence of having done that, and it has not been fruitful. That's why I'm saying that they are lucky we are not in court. It's just that because we are not properly served, we are not being served. That is why we didn't appear in court. But needless to say, we respect the outcome of the Supreme Court, saying that we should suspend, but they have not access to suspend campaigning. For the party NDC, we will continue our campaign. In fact, because we want to have a very wide margin in the rerun. Of course, it's going to come. They only deferred their defeat. They've given them 7 days to use substituted service means to get us. Well, let's wait for the 7 days. After, we'll take it on from there. 13th is not far from this. It will give us ample time. And then we'll put our acts together, and we'll continue the campaigning. In fact, as I speak now, some of our team members are already on their week. So long as the Supreme Court has not access to stop campaigning and all that, but only suspend the rerun, sure, that order is directed to the Electoral Commission, not with the political parties.
I see. Tanko, which means that this is not stopping you in your tracks at all?
No. It has rather given us more days to campaign. That is what we have seen it. Look, listen to the wording. They said they should suspend the rerun. That is what the court said. And so it's an action that the Electoral Commission, if they will go ahead with the Tertiary, now that they've been asked to suspend it, where they have to suspend and wait until 13th around the corner. They've given NPP 7 days to look for my candidate and serve him through substituted means. We're all in this country. We are not running away. We are not fugitive. We are law-abiding. The most law-abiding political party in Ghana, NDC. And so we respect the courts. That we went to the court to seek for justice for the people of Kpandai.
I see.
And justice was served.
I mean, will I be wrong to say that while you respect the decision, you didn't see it come in and you're quite unhappy with it also?
We are fine with it. Not that we didn't see it coming. We know that if we have not been served and they brought an action like that, definitely their lawyers will want to go for substitute service. So we already knew that they will want to go for success service.
I see.
Of the legal processes. And so we are not worried. We are not, that initially said, what surprise.
Very well.
So we are ready. We will respond to it appropriately.
We'll see how the next 7 days.
Our lawyers are working as we speak now.
Very well. We'll see how the next 7 days plays out. But thank you so much for joining us here with your reaction on this developing story. You're watching News Central. We'll be right back with more news, including prices of petroleum products are expected to go down marginally at the pump starting today. More of that when we return.
Thankful that you could stay with us here on News Central. Let's talk some good news because prices of petroleum products are expected to go down marginally at the pumps today. The price of petrol will be reduced between 1.64% and 3.89%, bringing the pump price per litre to about 12 cedis 90 pesos. Diesel is expected to see a much steeper decline, around 4.59%, which will see a litre selling around 13 cedis 20 pesos. Liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, is also expected to drop by some 2.16%, resulting in a kilogram selling for approximately 14 cedis. The expected reduction has been influenced mainly by declining prices of finished petroleum products on the international market. Petrol prices, we know, fell by 6.5%, diesel by 11.6%, and LPG by 0.22%. The cedi, however, depreciated marginally from 11.14 to 11.43%, 43 cedis, I should say, over the period. Speak to the Executive Director of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amoah. Ms. Amoah, thank you very much for speaking to us this afternoon. These prices we're expecting to see in terms of the decline, would you say fair based on the prevailing conditions on the world market, or it could go lower?
Very good afternoon to you, to your viewers as well. What I am asking is a situation where prices would actually go down. It will be very happy for us. Unfortunately, the numbers we have points to some stability rather at the pump. And so, though, like you rightly read, there's a possibility that the OMC may want to give Ghanaians a good Christmas gift. Indications I pick from a lot of them as of this time and minute is that we could be tilting towards more of stability than a decline before Christmas.
But in terms of what it is that we're seeing for this pricing window, this will last us until the 1st of January 2026. Are we seeing in terms of the projections that things could stay the way it is, or we should be bracing for possibly in the next 2 weeks a rise of some sort?
The good news for Ghanaians going into the holiday is that you may not have to pay more for the cost of fuel. And so, like I have said earlier, it will be good for us as Ghanaians if the pumps are just downward. At least it would ease the pressures on our pockets. That notwithstanding, however, we are quite certain that we are approaching stability more than a decline at this point. But again, you never know. Like the board chairman of the AOMC has said earlier, you could have a situation where the OMCs are deciding the last window of the year to give Ghanaians something to take hope for Christmas. And so you may find one or two, three, or a few of them that decides to go down on pricing. And that, again, like I indicated, will be very welcome. Except that, like I said earlier, the numbers we have for petrol, diesel, LPG, generally pointing to stability more than the declines that have been announced.
Right. Just finally, we haven't had to talk about fuel prices for quite a while, a discussion about tax component and what have you. In terms of the generality of the market as we have it, all inuring towards the good of Ghanaians?
What I would say is that we've been lucky for 2025, particularly for the fact that the Bank of Ghana, managers of our economy, the finance ministry, seem to have been able to stabilize the local currency. And so although the year is perfect, you see, as it were, taxes go up by as much as 1 Ghana cedi. If you recall, the levy that was added somewhere in the middle of the year, it's clearly not had too much of a dire impact If we were looking at the past where prices were galloping and you add 1 Ghana, I'm sure you probably would be heading towards a difficulty. But as it stands, prices are generally fair and stable. And I think that if you leave me, I would say that the oil marketing companies and the BDCs particularly have been very, very fair to Ghanaians for the year. If you take out the 1 Ghana cedi levy that was slapped on your current prices, you'll be coming down to about 11.9 for diesel, about the same 11 point something for petrol, and for LPG you come down further. That would have been quite easy on our pocket. But again, even with the impact of the 1 Ghana cedi, I can say without equivocation that it looks to have been a very fair year. What we are hoping for in 2026 would simply have to be a very useful year that allows all of us to go about our business without having to be burdened with incessant increases in material prices. What I don't understand again is how towards the end of the year, we are seeing increases in the rate of the currency. As I speak with you, I don't know, but the cedi looks to be losing ground, and if that continues, then January will come with rather increases that you and I wouldn't expect to be given in the new year. So maybe the managers of your economy would get back to work to roll their sleeves and ensure that the cedi remains very okay.
Right. I appreciate you for joining us, Mr. Amoah Dankanamo, as the Executive Director of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, speaking to us this afternoon.
On to another headline story. More than 100 members of the Ghana Mine Workers Union have picketed at the premises of BCM Company Limited, demanding payment of their end-of-contract benefits, which they say have been outstanding for 10 months now. The leadership of the union described the situation as an unfair labor practice and has given management until Friday, December 19, 2025, to settle the outstanding payments or face further industrial action.
Addressing the media at the premises of BCM Ghana Limited in Accra, the General Secretary of the Ghana Mine Workers Union, Abdul Mumin Gbana, said the workers will not back down until their demands are met.
And so what we are saying is that this is an employment protection that we put into the collective agreement. And it is time BCM complies fully with that provision. To the extent that they fail to comply, we are going to have series of actions of this nature to, as a matter of agency, demand that they have full compliance of the agreement that we entered into with them. For the past 10 months, they haven't actually come out with any kind of updates to demonstrate to us their preparedness to settle this obligation. And so it is pretty clear that this is an employer that is deliberately trying to check its responsibility. And once the laws are clear, once the agreement that we entered into with them is very clear, what we are going to do is to demand until they comply fully with the agreement.
Meanwhile, management of BCM Ghana Limited has declined to comment on.
Now, Ghana has taken major steps towards reforming its electricity distribution sector with the launch of a new policy framework aimed at improving efficiency. Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Abdullahi Jinapor, unveiled the guiding framework for private sector participation in Accra.
Speaking at the launch, the Acting Chief Director, Solomon Ajetisowa, described the framework as a milestone in government's efforts to build a resilient and sustainable electricity distribution system. He said the policy provides a clear roadmap for collaboration between the public and private sectors while safeguarding national interest. At the heart of the framework is a clear goal to improve electricity distribution across the country.
For the reintroduction of private sector participation, the government established the PSP Steering Committee, supported by financial, technical, and communications subgroups to lead a transparent and evidence-driven process. Since then, the committee has undertaken extensive work, including the following: detailed diagnostic assessments of ECG and NETCO, evaluation of global PSP models, and lessons from comparable utilities.
He noted that despite Ghana's progress in expanding electricity access and generation capacity over the years, challenges within the distribution subsector continue to affect performance. Under the policy, government will introduce a multiple lease model, allowing private operators to manage distribution zones without owning the assets. Government insists the framework does not amount to privatization, but rather a performance-driven partnership designed to strengthen ECG and NEDCO. Chair of the Technical Subcommittee, Jabesh Emisata, outlined key details of the guiding framework for private sector participation in electricity distribution.
In this work, we have also looked at regulatory oversight, how it will be conducted. We have looked at the Government of Ghana's social policy framework and how it will be made to work with the private sector participation. And then we have also looked at the key performance indicators that the PSPs will be measured by.
The launch signals the beginning of a new phase in Ghana's electricity distribution reform, as stakeholders prepare for implementation aimed at delivering reliable and efficient power. Stanley Niblew, TV3 News, Accra.
It's still News Central here on TV3. Now, Paramount Chief of Acheme Bawku, Sajifo Amwetio has called on government to increase investment in health infrastructure, particularly in rural and deprived communities. He made the call at the 6th annual and dinner event organized by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association in Accra.
Across many rural communities, inadequate health infrastructure continues to affect quality healthcare delivery. In some areas, nurses and other health workers lack basic tools and equipment to carry out their duties. Others are forced to trek between 16 and 20 kilometers daily to access their places of work. These challenges are further compounded by inadequate welfare systems for nurses and midwives nationwide. In the 2026 budget, government has earmarked over 9 million cedis to support nurses and midwives across the country. At the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Awards ceremony, organized to recognize outstanding nurses and midwives, the Ochehini Amwetio expressed concern about the persistent infrastructure deficits in deprived communities.
It makes sense for a child to die of malaria in a remote area. It doesn't make sense for a woman who's going to have a baby has to walk 16 miles to the nearest hospital. It does not make sense, humanly possible. Not what we know, not what we have. So my plea tonight is to applaud you for what you've been able to accomplish. But my plea to us, to those of us in leadership, to governments who have to build infrastructure, is to try and spread and widen the circle of opportunity that everybody in this country, based on merit.
He further called on government and citizens alike to take collective responsibility in ensuring national development.
We need to build our country, build infrastructure in the health system. The same people here are the ones who go somewhere else and become best nurses and best doctors, right here in this room. So we need to open up our country to connect disadvantaged people and their economics to some opportunities for them to grow into too.
President of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, JNMA, Perpetual Foriampofo, highlighted the dedication and sacrifices of nurses and midwives and stressed the need to adequately reward their hard work.
We are the backbone of equitable, accessible, and effective health care. We are the heartbeat of Ghana's health system, and your dedication as nurses and midwives continues to transform lives, strengthen communities, and inspire hope across Ghana.
Other speakers at the event assured nurses and midwives of the government's commitment to improving their welfare and working conditions. Outstanding nurses and midwives who excelled in their respective fields were honored at the ceremony.
We'll be right back with more news. Don't go away.
Now, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC, has expressed concern over universities introducing fee-paying admission system for students who fail to meet standard entry requirements. According to the Director General, Professor Abdullahi Jinapo, the practice violates existing regulations and undermines the objectives of Ghana's higher education framework.
Historically, we've had fee paying being for distance and weekends and sandwich. These are for mainly people who are working, who have the means of affording such fee paying. And today, we've also said that, look, the GTEC policy, and I'm here to look at it, the policy gives a certain quota, a very small margin for people who want to pay fees. And as I indicated, there should be some reasoning behind it. When the policy is blanket, that those who get from 6 to 10, they shouldn't pay fees. And these are people, as I indicated, the people who get 6 to 10 are those from the southern privileged institutions. I'm not being sectional or regional bias, but I happen to have gone to Damangwa Secondary School. Damangwa Secondary School is very, very difficult by virtue of location to be able to get those grades. And the people who go there are children of very, very poor people. So if such a person, by no fault of his, is asked to come and pay fees because he or she didn't pass very well, then we think that there's a problem. Because
now, just before we go, former Member of Parliament for Savlugu, Hajia Mary Salifu Buforo, who died on Saturday, December 13, 2025, at the age of 74, has been laid to rest in Savlugu. Now, hundreds of mourners, including the NDC's chairman, Johnson Esiedu Nketia, were in Savlugu to bid her farewell.
Took a liking of me because those days I was called heavyweight.
I think they were in Parliament together at some point in time in the early days of the Fourth Republic.
But our condolences to
yes,
her family.
And the entire family. That's our bulletin for you today. I am Mawuena Egbeta.
And I am Kemini Amanor. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.